talking with Tarashuk, I talk to everybody. Like
Right.
you are who you are. Next week, it's a podcast expert. Week after that, it's a political TikToker. Right? It's all over the place. It's all.
Yeah.
And last week, it was me and my friend is hanging out. But niches are huge. I'm like, cool. I like everything. I'm curious. I'm interested in a lot of different things. Let me create niches. So it's talking with Tarashuk isn't necessarily a network, but it creates niches. So for example, I have the main feed. Everything I do, the full shows and the clips. I have a second feed, just the clips. I have a third feed, just the full shows. Every Wednesday, and like it is kind of in batches, but I'm in a rhythm. I'm in a production rhythm of how I do things. It just works for me. I love it. But everything Wednesday morning, the podcast, the clips are released at 8 a.m. The podcast is at 8:30. So the first thing you see is the podcast, then the clips, podcast, and all the clips. But I go to take it a step further. So this particular podcast is going to be on the All Talk to Tarashuk. The full show is just a full show. The clips, all the clips. But it's also going to be on some of the clips are going to be on the Entrepreneurs feed. So it's a podcast playlist, a feed. So it's on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and all that, where I speak to entrepreneurs, or if we give advice to entrepreneurs, the feed is directed specifically towards entrepreneurs, a niche audience. Or if we talked about sports, we talk about baseball, I throw it on there. If we talk about the economy, I'll throw it on there, the money playlist. Podcast, this last half of the podcast, we're talking all about podcasting. The clips from the specific about podcasting are going to be on that feed. So it's very niched, and it does come out in batches. So like the sports hasn't come out in a few weeks. That's fine. I haven't talked about sports in a few weeks. That's cool. That's fine with me. So I do kind of create those niches, and I get a sense of, okay, what are people liking and clicking on?
Yeah, I think you could do it both ways. I think you could do it the way you described, where you have essentially one pillar and then multiple feeds.
Yeah.
I like the one where you have one feed and then you just put multiple things on it. Because honestly, think these days, the idea, especially if you're not playing the game where your audience has to grow from episode to episode to episode to episode, think about how you consume stuff. I'm jumping into the feed saying like, I want to listen to this one, not that one, not that one, not one, this one. And I'm fine. It doesn't bother me. I never think, why did this podcaster put all these different guests in the same show? This should have been 6 shows. I just skip the ones I'm not interested in, listen to the ones that I am interested in. If I like it enough, I might subscribe, and then I'll keep doing the same thing. Skip the ones I'm not interested in, listen to the ones. So I think that we don't always realize the power of having audiences at the episode level rather than audiences at the show level. Like everyone's talking about growing the audience at the show level, and that's totally fine if that's how you want to monetize, like we talked about earlier. But if you're not trying to do that, then you actually have more flexibility. And so with Valley Business Radio, for example, Valley meaning the greater Phoenix metropolitan area, the Valley of the Sun. Everybody here just calls it the Valley.
The Valley.
So there's like 16 cities and a bunch of things, but it's the Valley. So Valley Business Radio would have a different audience for every episode depending on who was on. And I'm completely okay with that. I'm not trying to carry them over from one episode to the next. I mean, you just have to approach it differently, but you can also not, and it's okay.
Well, I like giving the audience choices. I'm big on choice. So if I typed in talking with Tarashuk, I'd be like, oh, yuck, he's speaking to another, political guy. Screw this. I like the baseball talks. I like the wrestling talk. I'm just subscribe to the sports one. I mean, it's just like if you like all of it, subscribe to all of it. And it's a way so I can kind of gauge my audience as it grows. I do think I'm thinking about it now. I probably should have done it after I have the audience. They could split them up after you have them, not necessarily before you have them. But I'm thinking about keeping it down just to 3 clips, main, and all of them.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, because then at least there is consistency at the level of the format. So if you're really interested in clips and that's how you want to consume, great, you got that, etc. But, going back to something you asked near the beginning of this, Will, which is, do they give us enough credit or do they trust us, I think was your actual question. And think about how we've always consumed media. Like the newspaper had a bunch of stuff in it that not everybody read. But
true.
There's always that one guy who's like, your grandpa who would like read it from cover to cover, every single, But there's other people that like this section, like that section, read this part, or they like one reporter, so they only read his stories or her stories. They do that thing. Same thing with network TV. If you didn't watch it 24 hours a day, you had, even in the era of appointment consumption, you like for me as a kid, it was like Magnum PI was on at like 3, and then or 4. A-Team was at 2. Anyway, I don't remember, but it's
Right.
like A-Team. It was like A-Team, Magnum PI, Knight Rider, and I just watched. I didn't care about anything else. I wasn't watching in the evening, partly because I wasn't supposed to be watching at all. So once my parents, were like coming home, I'm Gen X, so like we were left alone forever, basically. So I would watch the shows in the middle of the afternoon when I could get away with it, and then turn the TV off and pretend I've been doing my homework all day. So we've always been selective. It's okay. Trust them. They'll figure it out.